Welcome to Motormouth, brought to you by the Boyertown Museum of Historic Vehicles. I'm Kendra.
Oh, is this where I say I'm Dan?
I hope you're Dan.
Yeah, I'm Dan.
You're wearing a shirt.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're here in the Reading Diner inside the museum, and this is special tonight because I think we're going to be in the diner all night.
The whole night.
That's right.
Yep.
So we'll move around in here, but we've got a diner-centric show in a way.
Diner-centric.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Speaking of the diner, the museum, which again is located at 85 South Walnut Street in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We'll be holding Diner Day again very soon on Saturday, November 4th, and that's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And always look forward to a good time there. We're going to have lots of great pie and coffee here, and of course, once you pay your admission, that pie and coffee is available at 1938 prices. So that's a nickel for your coffee and a quarter for your pie.
And right in here, this where we're standing.
Right in here, you can sit in the booths, on the stools. It's really a neat experience.
Mm-hmm.
Place comes alive when you're eating food in here.
Is Chuck going to be here?
I hope so. Yes.
He's a DJ.
He is.
So you're playing the old stuff from back then.
Yep. And yeah, it's cool. Everyone's interested, excited. The carriage factory will be open as well, so we'll have blacksmithing going on up there. We've got lots of great volunteers all over the gallery who can answer questions for you.
Thank you.
Right, Dan?
Yeah. I'll be here.
So that's Saturday, November 4th. And then on Friday, November 10th, we have a great fundraiser going on. That's a great way to support the museum. In Boyertown, there's a restaurant called CD's Place. It's one of the cup restaurants, which might be a future Motormouth topic.
I think you ought to do it.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
The CD's Place right here in town on North Reading Avenue. And CD's Place is great. They do a lot of the catering for our events here. And so on that Friday, November 10th, from 6 to 9 p.m., he's going to open up the restaurant, and it's a BYOB night. It's a burger night. He's got a whole menu of burgers that he's created for the evening. You go, you eat a burger and fries. Part of your bill will go to the museum to support all the great stuff we're doing here. So we'd love to see you out there. Again, that's Friday, November 3rd, 6 to 9. And that's all I got for you right now. But of course, the museum, as always, is open 7 days a week, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And look forward to seeing you. If you haven't been here lately, especially since the new floor, you gotta make time to get in here. We're still getting people in who haven't been since the new floor, and they all agree it looks great. So.
And right now, I noticed this when I came in tonight, we have a new vehicle out here. Not new, but new being in this building. And
a couple actually right now.
And we have a couple others that, like, I'm looking at two of them right here.
That out the windows there, we see some new ones.
Only been here for a little bit, so.
Yeah, so we're trying to always change things a little bit in here. So come back and see what's new.
Yep.
So, Dan.
What?
We've got some
stuff.
Themed topics for us tonight.
Okay.
What have you got for us tonight?
Okay, what I'm going to do, first of all, I am going to read something for you. I don't need those papers. Okay, and this is out of the New York Times, December 8th, 1973.
Ooh, we're getting high class.
Yeah, oh yeah. And it's by someone named Linda Greenhouse. So I'm going to read this, and it might take a minute or two. Starts out, "What can I say except that we're in the right place at the right time," said Arthur Schifrin, who sold 150,000 steel gasoline cans last year, and in the year ahead expects to sell them at the rate of 150,000 a month. Right now, he has orders for nearly 500,000 1-gallon and 5-gallon cans that he cannot deliver. "If someone gave me 1 million cans today, I'd sell them tomorrow," he said. Mr. Schifrin is the founder and president of Wolfrin Industries based in Coney Island. 2 years ago, the company acquired a Los Angeles manufacturer of gasoline cans. Wolfram, who makes and wholesales 500 other automobile accessories, including a 69-cent gasoline siphon, suddenly was so popular that his staff had to scour the entire 50,000 square foot plant to find one of these siphons to show his visitors. Mr. Schifrin, who is 43 years old, is a furrier's son who got his start in the accessory business by selling his dad's leftover foxtails to bicycle stores. And I remember as a kid, really young as a kid, that you'd put these foxtails on your handlebars, like on the end of the handlebars, and as you're flying there, they're flapping in the wind, okay? He has the ebullient air of a man who is living his childhood fantasies and is not too grown up to enjoy them. He owns it and drives a Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud, a Ferrari, a Cadillac Eldorado station wagon, and a 34 Chrysler that cruised at 50 miles an hour and gets 20 miles to the gallon. Among the ideas on his drawing board are a gasoline siphon with a pump that will sharply reduce siphoning time, an indicator designed to buzz when a car hits 55 miles an hour, and a vacuum gauge calibrated to tell the mileage per gallon at a glance. He hopes to have the gauge in production within 60 days to retail for $19.95. Mr. Schifrin is reluctant to say how much money he has made lately. Let's just say that the energy crisis has caused this quarter to be the best in our 25-year history. Okay, so we're talking 1973. If you remember back that far, you can. We had the gasoline crisis. Everybody was excited about, you know, mileage and having a full tank and stuff. And here's this guy selling gasoline cans by the thousands. He's selling siphons by the thousands, I guess, and other things. Very interesting, okay? Now, this company is very interesting too. In December 1954, ABC, the TV station, aired a series called Davy Crockett, Indian Fighter. The coonskin cap worn by actor Fess Parker set off a craze in the nation's youth. So everybody wanted these coonskin caps.
Not a foxtail cap.
No. And Wolfram Industries saw that and they got on the bandwagon and they were selling them. The craze lasted until the raccoon tails went from 25 cents each to $5 a pound. So I don't know, you know, what happened there, but that was like a year later, and so it kind of died. Anyway, about that time, Wolfram Industries switched to automotive novelty business. Okay, you think of the 50s, everybody's coming out, all these baby boomers, well, not the 50s, but by the 60s, they were starting to drive and all that such. And so between 1961 and 1968, Wolfram Industries, they actually had all these different items, such as hula dolls that dance in rear windows of cars. Kind of like a bobblehead thing, okay? Religious statues to put on dashboard, fuzzy dice, self-adhesive pinstriping. The most popular thing was amber lens dye, which I'm not sure what that is, but it was the most successful product, sold in more than 1 million units. Okay, also something he had was white wall paint, and if you could lift this and you can show people, this is called mod walls. Okay, we're talking, let's see, this magazine is 1970. It's an issue of the High Performance Cars magazine. So we can see these Cadillac Eldorados with these real wide white walls that you would paint on. Okay, they were called mod walls because mod is one of those words, you know, like the mod squad, I guess. Okay. Okay.
Very mod.
So this is all Wolfram Industries here. Okay, you can put that down now because I'm on to the next thing here. Okay.
Down.
Thank you. Okay. Now I have another item I want to tell you about. It's called mod tops. Okay, you get the theme here: mod walls, mod tops. Okay. They were made for Plymouths and Dodges in 1969, 1970. If you've ever seen one, consider yourself pretty lucky. There's not many out there. I've seen a couple. You go online, you see all kinds of pictures, and as I'm talking, you're seeing pictures of these cars. The first one is a '69 Barracuda. Second one also is a '69 Barracuda, and you'll see the interior of it. The third one is a '69 Dodge Dart, and then the last one is 1970 Hemi Cuda, which is big bucks. If you have big bucks, you can spend it buying this one here.
I've got no big bucks.
But all together, through these 2 years, and Dodges and Plymouths, they had a little over 2,800 cars that they made. And what it was, you're probably looking at the pictures and wondering exactly what's going on here, but they had vinyl tops and they had this flowery pattern. It'd come in green, blue, or yellow. It would match the paint of the car. You could also get the interior that way too, and it was pretty neat. And
oh my gosh, I need it.
and of course, there's rarities. Some of them have just interior with no vinyl top, and some are vice versa, the vinyl top, no interior, and so on and so forth, or an odd color, or odd this, or odd that. And so it's pretty exciting there. So that's the mod tops, not to be confused with the mod walls that are on these Eldorados and these pictures that Kendra showed you.
I need a mod top for my little orange peanut up there.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I think that would be
It
good.
would look good, right?
It would good, because your car is kind of sporty looking, and you know, you're a sporty type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, with your 12 kids in the back. 3. Okay.
And I'm impressed, Dan, because I fell behind this week, and I did not incorporate a TV show reference.
Oh.
So you saved me. Bess Parker.
Best Parker.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So.
Thanks for bailing me out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, sorry, I'm not intruding on you, right?
No, I'm done.
So your theme was mod.
Mod.
And that will come into play because we're now just going to shift spots here in the diner, and we're going to meet this evening's guest. And we'll be right back to follow up on mod. Okay, well, we spent some time ogling the photos of the mod tops because they were just too cool. And so now we have moved into one of the booths here at the diner, and we are here with our guest, Mod Betty. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here. You've been here before at the diner. I know you said on diner day when it was really busy.
Eating pie.
Yep. The best thing to do in the diner.
Ever.
But now it's a little more calm and subdued. You're seeing us a little more relaxed. And Mod Betty is the creator of a really awesome website called retroroadmap.com, and we've got one of the pages up here. And you'll see a map with all these little dots on it. And this is a great site. It's perfect for you and me, Dan, really, because it's full of places that you need to see as you're driving around. You know, retro, you know, kind of throwback. You've got everything on here. Hotels, you got places to eat. Just oddities, maybe roadside oddities.
Interesting things, yeah. What I like to call it, I tend to call what I have on my website cool vintage places and retro fun. So it's places like stepped back in time that have been around from the 20s to the 60s and a little bit on either side. But then the retro fun is, you know, like a place like this, like go here and go eat pie in the diner that's inside this wonderful place.
Yes.
So I love jumping in the car and going exploring the roadside. And I thought other people probably do too. And if I could share the places I've found, then they would have excuses to go out and find them and then explore and see what they think.
Exactly. And see all our little like backyard gems that we have. And I think actually that's how we kind of became aware of your site, was because you had talked about here, Bagley's, and that was really cool. And then we started looking, like, there's really neat stuff on here, and we just kind of got sucked in. And your website is like a black hole for us. You can get lost in there.
My plan worked.
Your evil plan
has
worked, yes.
So the question is, how does one get interested? How did you get started in finding this stuff?
Well, you know, it's interesting to me because only since I've been here I was realizing how much getting my driver's license and getting behind the wheel of a car made me kind of who I am today. And it's because when you're a kid and you're in the car, you only go where your parents go. And now my parents did not go, we did not go on road trips, we did not go on vacations, but as soon as I got my license, it was like freedom. So I got to go and drive around any place I wanted to, and I got to stop at the places that I had always wanted to stop as a kid. So, you know, there's like a shiny diner, or there's a building that's shaped like a clam box that serves fried clams on the inside, or there's a place where you can get an ice cream. So I loved finding those places and then taking pictures of them. And it's one of those things I started back in the Stone Age, and it has just followed me throughout my life. I love to travel, and I don't want to go to the same boring places, chains. I want to drive a few more miles and find a place that makes me feel like I'm actually traveling somewhere as opposed to just in anywhere USA.
Yeah.
And there's places like that. Now, I only work 6 miles from here.
Okay.
But if I have the right frame of mind and I'm driving home from work, there are things like that that would catch my interest. Maybe not an old diner or an old this or an old that, but there are other things like, you know, what about this? And, you know, those cast iron historical signs. You know, they should have my name on every one of them because I'm always reading them. And so there's a lot of stuff out there.
There are. You know, the neat thing to me, and this is one of the reasons I created Retro Roadmap, is I think everybody has that idealized version of taking that Route 66 from Chicago to LA, that great American road tour. I have that dream myself, but you don't have to wait to do that to find the vintage and fun places around. I mean, you can make a plan to have a weekend and do a retro road trip, or as you said, when you're coming back from work, you know, maybe you take another route and maybe all of a sudden you see a barn with a mail pouch, you know, painted on the side, or you look and oh my gosh, there's like a cool vintage sign that I never saw, or I always saw it in the daytime, but then I was there at night and then it was lit up and you just like, oh my god, it's like the best thing ever, you know. So it's about seeing what's around you and appreciating it, and especially to me, this kind of, as I say, like the 20s to the 60s history is so colorful and vibrant and positive and cheerful. And it's kind of disappearing too, because it's not old enough to be considered antique and, you know, very, very, you know, it's not, a lot of what I like isn't serious and formal. It's fun things, it's motels, it's vintage signs, it's things that everybody likes to do, but sometimes people don't realize that that's part of our history. So if it gets old, they knock it down and then they build up something boring.
Yeah.
So I try to get the word out to say, go to these places and support them so they stick around. And then if they do end up, you know, going, at least you did your part.
Yeah, it's not a 1750 farmhouse that beautiful stone, you can't drive. But like you said, big and colorful. I mean, this is like when the car is becoming, for the same for you as for most people, you know, it's their freedom. And these big colorful things attract all these free drivers, and let's go pull over and check that out. And lots of vintage advertising.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, honestly, it kind of coincides with like when the cars got big and beautiful and exciting and colorful was post-war. You know, there was that exuberance and we had stuff to do, and then because everybody had the car, then they wanted there needed to be places to drive to and excuses. So that whole notion of places popping up on the roadside for everybody. Yeah, it seems like such a fun time.
Yeah.
So here we are, we're in southeastern Pennsylvania. Give us a recommendation of a good road to go, like if you had a day or a weekend.
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot.
But I don't think that spot's too big.
He's really trying to narrow it down.
I know. Well, to me, it's neat because some roads have more things than others. So they have, you know, so we've got the historic Lincoln Highway that goes through. Goes through Pennsylvania, that once you get out maybe past, you know, the Lancaster area a little bit more, you can find some fun things. There's a place just outside of Lancaster that has a windmill that's all lit up that goes in circles that I call Lank Vegas, because it's like you never expect to see this shiny thing in the midst of Amish farm country.
Right.
So
there it is.
It's right there. Jenny's Diner is out there as well. If you go way up to the northern part of the state, there's Route 6. But I always say get off of the main roads and take some of those secondary highways. You know, if you need to get someplace really quickly, go maybe on the turnpike or, you know, $4.76. But then, or make the time, and then on the way home, dawdle your way back home and see what you can explore and find out.
Yeah.
My parents, to go to their house, the quickest way is Interstate 81. Okay? Most of the time, I give myself time and I go on Route 11,
Yes.
which is the old US highway that parallels it. And if you're getting behind time, you go back on the interstate and just go flying again. And there's as many times as I've gone through there's always interesting stuff to see.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to find too, because sometimes, honestly, if you think about it, you're driving down the road, and I'm always amazed I haven't been in a car crash yet, because I'm always looking, but when I'm looking over here, I'm missing what's over here, or vice versa. You're not like a flounder? My eyes aren't on both sides. But sometimes it depends on what season it is. You can find a vintage camper in somebody's backyard because the leaves have fallen from the trees and you suddenly see it. Or just the way that the sunlight all of a sudden picks up something that's glinting, and you notice that there's something kind of, there's an old sign for a drive-in movie theater that's kind of hidden behind some ivy. It really, it makes getting on the road, you can make it an adventure.
So, you mentioned about the old campers that, this time of the year or in the winter when there's no snow on the ground. You can see these things.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always looking for the old cars parked behind the barn or whatever.
Or you're looking at the barns and thinking, is there an old car?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of neat stuff like that. So.
There is.
So, I'm trying to think, you mentioned Lancaster out there, and the thing I thought you were going to say was the shoe.
Well, that's out, yes. So two places. The Shoe House in York County, in York, PA, is such a gem as far as that kind of unusual architecture in, the country. And here it is in Pennsylvania. It's a house shaped like a shoe.
Yeah.
And you walk in, and you could, at one point people lived there, and there's a great history. You can take tours of it. Another place I will say that I love to send people as an excuse for a road trip, because it is almost like a miniature road trip once you get there, is Roadside America up near Hamburg.
Yep.
That place is like a national treasure. It is on so many levels. It's so beautiful. So, yeah.
It's we were up there a few years ago. Took the kids. Of course, the kids loved it.
The gift shop
it's
there
amazing.
is even neat.
The gift shop is awesome. I mean, I love the tile floor in that gift shop. I get a shoe fly pie. I buy anything with a hex sign on it. It's kind of, I've become a bit Pennsylvania Dutch crazy ever since going to that shop.
About a half mile from there is where we found our gas station that we have in the museum.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Maybe a mile.
Sitting in someone's yard.
There you go.
Really, essentially.
Side street, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you see
You
it.
never know what you find around here.
See, now I've got to go back to Roadside America and check out the tile floor. I don't think I ever noticed
Yeah,
that.
I want to say it's well, you know what? This is getting a little bit too geeky for everybody, but you've got a fabulous tile floor here, which I love. But a lot of times you can tell if a place is old and it's got the old linoleum floors, because the tiles tended to be a 9x9 versus a 12x12. Bigger tiles tend to be like the normal ones you get now. So if you see if you see linoleum that is smaller, you can pretty much tell it's that big. Just a bit of random information.
I love it.
I like that. I'm trying to think now. I've been on your website, and I saw, and I'm trying to think how much time we have here. We got some time here? Okay, good. Okay, I saw a motel on there called Cool Wink Motel, okay? And I had to go there. Now, you get all excited. Calm down, okay? I don't think they had any tile on the floor, though. But the thing is, I went there, you recommended it, I went there, it's down in Romney, West Virginia, and it's a motel that basically didn't change since 1960, correct?
It is, yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so the Cool Wink is like a time capsule.
Yes.
And I love sending people there because it's family owned and operated. While it has not changed, they haven't changed anything because they haven't needed to. Nothing's, if it's broken, they fixed it. They've cleaned up their things. It's got these vintage lamps in it. The rooms are huge and clean. It's really like stepping back in time. And then they've got a great logo with the guy with the top hat. It's across the street from a bowling alley. And then the people who own it are the sweetest people. And I would so much rather live in a place or visit a place like that than just go to like the sleepaway, you know, comfort, whatever, you know, that you can just feel like you're in no man's land.
Yeah. And I turned the TV on and it was just old reruns. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Wow.
They
They
have
do
modern-
have
That
They
is
do have,
the
like-
place for me.
Yeah, they do have the phones, like they have
The rotary dial.
Well, they don't have rotary. They have push button
Okay.
phones, but
Yeah.
it's great. And even the exterior is very
Yep.
like
It's
vintage
spotless,
1950s.
spotless.
And it's so clean and
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, I'm so glad it warms my heart to hear that people have gone to places that are on my website, because that's the whole reason I do it, is to encourage people to look around and to go to the places that make you feel like you've actually been somewhere.
Now I'm going to throw something out here. You can put
Okay.
this on your web. here,
Okay.
If this is in the right category. But if you go north from Romney about 15 miles,
Okay.
you're crossing over the Potomac River into Maryland,
Okay.
and it's a town called, is it Old Town or Hometown or something like that? They have a bridge that crosses the river, and they say, they say that it's the only privately owned bridge, toll bridge that crosses state lines in the country. I know it isn't, but you go there and it's this old plank bridge, and it's it is not a wet weather bridge because it's only like a foot above the river. So if it floods, like in the wintertime, it's probably underwater. But I drove across, you know, the clackety, went along. I said, hey, this is cool. I had to turn around and go back. And it's only single lane.
Clack.
Yeah. And I talked to the guy in the toll booth,
Uh-huh.
and we were talking. I found out he's from Brooklyn, New York, which, you know, really threw me. It's like, what are you doing out here? So, but that's one of those neat little places, and that came up from another website called roadsideamerica.com,
Right.
which you were
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
which is, you know, another place where you can find
No, they've
neat
been an
stuff.
inspiration to me ever since they just had their information in books. I'm so old that it's all my fascination with this type of thing predates the internet. I'm a
Wow.
book-learned girl.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
I think so.
So you travel, and I understand you have like a small traveler trailer.
I do, yes.
Is it like retro also?
It is. How could it not be? Or not, you know? Yeah. It's a 1964 Cerro Scotty.
Okay.
And the
It's
neat
adorable.
thing about it, besides the fact that it's white with this gray aqua stripe, is that it was actually built here in Pennsylvania.
Okay. I didn't know they were built here.
Yeah, they were built out in Irwin, PA, kind of more towards the Pittsburgh area.
I learn something every day.
And it's a great little style of camper. It's only it's like a 13-foot, but that includes the 2-foot hitch, so it's really only 11. And they call it a canned ham. Because it looks like, remember when you used to get ham in a can? It's like they take that and they put it on the side, they put a couple of wheels, and
you're
I truck
good
it
to
around
go.
with me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
And maybe you'll see my camper here in the future sometime. I may pull up and show it off.
I
a
know,
little bit,
we're,
I was hoping we'd have it here tonight, but it's cool.
you know?
So.
next time she comes, she's gotta bring the camper.
Yeah.
So do you pull it with a retro vehicle also?
Well, I would love to, but baby steps.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we do have a modern vehicle that we tow it with, because as you can imagine, being on the road, you also want something that's reliable, and I would be so afeared of breaking down and having a classic car, and then again, having people who know how to fix classic cars. You don't just go to the Jiffy Lube or someplace and say, hey, something's wrong with my car. They wouldn't know
So
what to do.
you have on your list like a 1969 Barracuda with a mod top and a mod interior.
Well, we may need to get one of those just for driving around
Yeah.
town, and then another car, like another tow vehicle, you know,
Yeah.
because I envision I don't know, some sort of like vintage, what do you call it, station wagon.
Yeah.
You know, that whole notion, and then you get all your cool vintage luggage in the back.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
On the roof.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It would all have to match, of course.
Yeah.
Aqua.
Aqua, is that
Yeah.
it?
Uh-huh.
Be still. I
Yeah,
need
it's
to
exciting.
So, Now, I see a bunch of, now I'm gonna ask you here.
All right, so this
Now,
is
how
quick.
does this, now I'm looking at the map here and I see a big circle and it says 14 in the middle.
Right.
What's that mean?
So you can actually look at the information on my website in a variety of ways. One of the ones is a map. You can also search for places. I know I'll probably screw up somebody's computer here if I try to use the mouse, but the basic concept is, so if you see something like this, if you zoom in, if you keep on zooming in, you know, I think when you go over here and you just go closer and closer, that it ends up being, so this means that there are 2 places in that general area. Yep. And so then you go in and it's like, let's say you want to go there, so you keep on clicking and you say, okay, ooh, there's a place in Carlisle, and then you can mouse over it and see, oh, there's Massey's Frozen Custard. So like if we go over where you guys are, where are we? So here we are, there's Reading, right? So I clicked in, and let's see what we have here. Well, we talked about that there's the Pagoda in Reading. There's Jimmy Kramer's Peanut Bar in downtown, which is kind of a classic.
It is, definitely. And it's a Reading establishment.
Yes, Mom Chaff's Cellaret, which is an adorable little place.
Yes,
to get some,
I've heard of that.
Yeah, to get some Italian food and Cellaret. To me, I'm a sucker for anything that ends with et. Luncheonette, brunette.
Dinette.
Yeah, dinette. You have me with that. And then out here more towards West Lawn is a great place called the Circle S, the Ranch House.
Oh, I have taken my kids to many a meal at the Ranch House.
And it's great. And you know what the funny thing is to me is that's one of the newer places I have on my map.
Yeah?
Because it's from like the 1970s. That's how new it is. Yeah. But they have a great neon sign.
Yes, they do.
Wagon wheel motif. I mean, and you don't see that stuff around here. So that's how you can find things. If you just want to look at the map, you can see what's around you.
And have you found all these yourself, or do people send their recommendations in?
It's a variety of ways. I mean, I'm not about to say that these places were undiscovered until I came around. But the neat thing is that people, when they know what I like, they do send me recommendations. And sometimes I know about them, but other times they're total surprises. So what I do as far as my research and to keep track of it all is behind the scenes, I have a Google map made for every single state. And when I find places that are interesting, I'll put a pin on the map. And then on the pin, I will actually note the date and who recommended it to me, so I can give them props. You know, I didn't do that at the beginning, so sometimes there are places where, you know, I found it or they found it or whatever, but now I realize I wanna try to remember why I got that. So so if you guys have tips, you can email me. I have a Facebook page for the website, which is a lot of fun. I can share a lot of quick information on that really easily by sending links, and then people say, oh hey, check this place out. So it's fun to meet other people who love to do this same type of thing.
And of course, let's say Kendra recommended something out in Idaho or something. It's your job to go out there.
It's my job to go out there. Gotta go to Idaho.
Yeah, someone's gotta do
And your little
it.
Scotty.
Well, you know, we thought we were going to use the Scotty a lot more, but trying to find a parking space that's a car and a camper length long, all of a sudden you're not fitting into these little downtowns anymore. But I do make an effort. I want to have every place that's on my website kind of vetted and recommended by me. The last thing I want to do is send somebody to someplace that would be kind of a bad experience or whatever. So I want to make sure that I can kind of like, if you ever played the game Life and there was Art Linkletter, his picture was on one of the boxes and it says, I heartily endorse this product. And that's how I feel. It's like, this place is the Maud Betty stamp of approval. You know?
But that's good. Like you said, you're not just taking, I mean, you take submissions, but you just make sure that the place actually is open and it actually allows people on the property, because I'm sure you probably get suggestions like that you're not really supposed to go.
Yeah, people have a variety of what they like to interest. And I will say, so if somebody has sent me, like, you know, somebody says, oh, there's this great place, you know, the Sycamore Drive-In, and they send me some pictures and they say, I was there and this is what it's like, I will trust them and I will say, this is a reader recommendation, and I will also put their name on it. So if somebody has a bad experience, they can be like, hey, you. Yeah. But I try to keep it upbeat. If there's a place that, let's say, somebody recommended and for whatever reason I don't feel like I can get behind, I won't put anything negative on the website. I just won't say anything at all. Right. You know, I want it to be a place where you go and you know that every place that's on there has, you know, been better.
You have Pennsylvania on there? That's where the ducks walk on water.
Oh, I heard about the ducks walking on water.
Okay, you don't
Yeah.
have it in
Putting
there.
on
I
a-
don't have it. Either.
I have to tell you, this past summer, I was in northeastern Pennsylvania,
Okay.
or northwestern, right up in the corner,
Uh-huh.
okay? And I wanted a motel,
Okay.
and I couldn't find a motel.
Mhm.
And so then I just typed in motels and I put the name of the town in,
Uh-huh.
and one came up,
Okay.
and it was just a little mom and pop motel.
Wonderful.
I called them up, and they were full.
Oh.
And she was so upset because they didn't have a room.
Aw.
And so I went back and I went on their website, and it was such a neat little motel. It had like 15 units to it
Oh,
maybe.
that's wonderful.
And so I went back on and I typed in motel, and it, like for the next closest one, and it was like 5 miles away. Again, a little mom and pop thing. And their big thing was a fish cleaning station they just built because they're near Lake Erie. But it was in this little town, it was quiet, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how about that? And this is the most important part, it was cheaper than the big chains.
Right. That's
So-
great. Well, you know, and the other thing too, you speak to an important point about going to these mom and pops and these what I call retro roadmap worthy places. Your money went directly to the mom and the pop.
Right.
And that money went directly to that little locality.
Mhm.
It didn't go back up to, you know, the corporate office in,
Good point.
you know,
Yep.
East Jabip. It stayed local. So you're saving the mom and pops, you're buying local, you're keeping that money in there. And, you know, it's like your money means so much more. Your investment in that place means so much more to them than your $70, $80, $100 does to the, you know, the motel, the generic motel down the street that's corporately owned and, you know, by a big conglomeration. Like they can afford to lose your money, but you staying there one night makes a difference, you know. And I like to empower people like that. You know, it's like I can't save all the puppies in the pet store, but like I can buy my burger at this place as opposed to that place, and that means that it's not much, but if I buy my burger there and you do, all of a sudden they get a nice bump in business, whereas the generic place down the street, they can survive.
And I think this is something I think most people are starting to become more aware of too lately. You know, buy local is like a movement now, and too, like what you're saying, we're looking to take, you know, more economical vacations. Well, now here you've got all these little day trips of cool stuff.
Yep.
Or if you are going out of state, because you don't have just Pennsylvania things.
no.
If you are going out of state, you can come up on here
Yeah.
and see if there's anything else in that area you're going to
Exactly.
or on the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and if you're out of state or you're in state and you find a place that you think I would like and I don't have it there, oh my gosh, yeah, totally get in touch with me, because my goal is for this to be a resource for the country. To be like, if you want to go on a road trip, and let's say you don't want to go on the highways and you don't want to eat in a chain and you don't want to sleep in a chain, you don't want to shop in a chain, and you want to have that kind of vintage retro road trip vibe, that this could be the map that you could follow and go from place to place and eat in a diner here and stay in a historic hotel or a little mom and pop motel and kind of feel like you'd step back in time. And then your destination isn't as important, because then the journey is so awesome.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Well, you know, we had talked about some like cool places that you'd been, and you gave me a list, and we
Okay.
could probably keep going and going and going, because there's a lot of cool places, obviously. That's why
Right.
there's a whole website. And I know. Well, before we have to make sure we get this in, because I am so intrigued by this, which is the American Sign Museum.
Ooh, yeah.
I am so intrigued by this museum.
Well, yes.
And it's not too far away, actually, really.
No, it's in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, that's not
So
too bad.
yeah, that's like you know, you could maybe take you could take a retro road trip, take a day or two to drive out there, and what it is, it's glorious. We were just there last week, and we had been there before in their earlier location, but it really is a museum, like yourself, that tells the history of the sign. So it goes from hand painted and hand carved wooden signs all the way up to, you know, and beyond the wonderful neon signs you see. And you learn about the history of that, but then they have it set up where you guys should all take like a field trip there, because it's
Road
fabulous.
trip.
Hear that, Matt?
Road trip.
They have this section
I'll add
that's
it
set
to the
up
list.
like a downtown, where they have the windows set up so you can see what window signs used to look like. They have a full-size Howard Johnson's Motor Lodge sign, 2 stories tall, with the neon going. this wonderful Sputnik that turns around. It's just a beautiful place, and they talk about, you know, how hand-painted signs, you know, it's just a wonderful place to learn about the history of signs in America, and then it's great eye candy. It's so
Oh my
pretty.
gosh, I
And they
can't
have
imagine.
Yeah, and they have events there too. So they've had weddings and like parties and things.
Yeah.
So it is a destination beyond belief.
Okay, Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do that. That just
Yeah.
sounds too cool.
Yes.
And I know also you had on your list, and you mentioned it briefly here when we were talking, the clam box.
Yeah. So I'm actually originally from Massachusetts. So that's where I cut my teeth as far as driving around and finding these cool gems. Now, I will say, because of the age of Massachusetts, there aren't as many of those kind of 1950s, 20s, 60s places. You know, it's a lot of it's colonial, and while some people dig that, it never really excited me. But up in Ipswich, which is the town that made the fried clam famous, there is a restaurant that looks like a clam box. It's 2 stories high, and I can only imagine how many fried clams it would take to fill it. But it looks like those little paper boxes you used to get, and you still can, that flip open and are filled with fried clams.
Okay.
It's called the clam box. You go into the box, you order your fried clams. Programmatic architecture, kind of like the shoe house here.
Yes.
You know, in
So cool.
yeah, and
That's
that's
so cool.
that's a destination both visually and culinarily.
Yes, it sounds delicious too.
Uh-huh. Very
What are
good.
some good places, like pretty local, that, I mean, we talked about Roadside America a little bit. Anything else kind of in our area that, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot. I
Yeah,
know there
well,
is,
you know what?
but-
So in this area, I am partial to the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville as a destination
love the
because I
Colonial Theater.
live in Phoenixville, but honestly, that vintage theater made us move to that town because it was
Really?
still open.
Uh-huh.
And I figured if people support this theater, we want to support a community that
Supports
cares about.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's a fun place to go for a movie, or they do live
Yes.
shows. Yep.
Guess who I saw at the Colonial Theater?
Full review and Raiders.
No, Michael Nesmith.
From the Monkees.
That's-
I was there too. Oh
You
my
were?
God. Yes. And I was like,
I passed in the night and
Yeah.
you didn't even know it.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, like young Maud Betty would die about the fact that Mike from the Monkees is playing like 4 blocks away from where
Yeah.
he lives. It was just like
It was like a religious experience for
it
me.
was crazy. Yeah, and Davy Jones used to live here in PA too.
Yes, he did.
I know. Just
Yes,
saying.
yes, he
Sorry.
did.
Anyhow,
Uh-oh.
so
We're gonna have her back and
Oh, I
do a
get the
monkey
vapors.
show.
you could get the Monkey Mobile. Maybe the Monkey
Oh,
Mobile can
it's
come here.
on my
Just
mind.
saying.
Because it's in Pennsylvania
Yeah.
too.
But yeah, so the Colonial's a great place. Another place that used to have drive-in, kind of car hop service that doesn't anymore, but it has a fabulous neon sign and fun road food, is the Hilltop Drive-In just outside of Pottstown
Love
in
the
Saratoga.
Hilltop.
So there's that.
Used to go there on dates in high school and
Uh-huh.
stuff. Yep.
Yep, excellent. And then 2 things that come to my mind is if you go down the street a little bit further there's a place called Specs that's at the corner of one of the pikes and one of the pikes. It's Germantown Pike and another one. And it's got 2 great signs on either side because they're famous for their roasted chicken. And the building itself, the building itself looks like it's white, it's very well kept. It looks almost like a little Howard Johnson's might have. It's white with a red roof. It's got these 2 great signs on either side, but you go inside and it is all yellow and red and orange. It's like this 1973 starburst pattern on everything. It's like a total step back in time. And crinkle cut fries and roasted chicken. Yeah. So
I'm
boom,
hungry.
there you go.
That's a good thing for
I am
eating.
hungry.
See? I know.
I can smell it.
I joke that I go to Specs when I don't want to cook, but like I never want to cook, so I'm pretty down to share a lot.
But it's next. I know a lot of our viewers know the Hilltop because this is Pottstown
Yeah.
TV, and the Hilltop is an establishment here. And it's neat to also think of it too in a different way. You know, you go to the Hilltop for burgers, but the sign is really cool. It looks neat lit up at
And
night.
you don't realize,
and
this
you
is
don't even think about it in that way,
right.
too.
Another neon sign in the Pottstown area that is iconic is Whites and Corns in downtown
Oh my
Pottstown.
gosh, yes.
And that is the 2nd oldest men's store in the entire country.
Oh.
Speaking of food,
Ooh, oh, good.
Oh boy. I didn't know the diner really worked. I thought it was just plastic. This is awesome.
thank you.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Very
This deserves
cool.
a road trip somewhere.
This does deserve. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pardon me.
Road Trip Museum. Well, we could keep going and going and going. I
We
think
can't
we're
trust
gonna
me.
take
We
a
can
few
eat all
bites,
day.
and we'll be back after we, refuel. So give us a minute here.
Refuel.
Well, I feel better now. We had some food. We're having breakfast for dinner, which is the perfect diner thing. Breakfast 24 hours.
Yeah, so breakfast 24 hours. So Kendra, I have a question for you.
I have an answer,
Where have
maybe?
you been like in the last couple months? Well, I know
Well,
you've been here working.
yeah, I
but,
know.
Take any cool road trips?
I'm gonna cheat a little because it has been longer than a couple months.
I am upset.
I can tell by your demeanor.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, go. Where have you been?
Yeah, we talked about this. Is where we've been the last couple months, and because my Betty is so kind to join us this evening.
Yeah.
I thought I needed to incorporate her into this because this is right up her alley, right?
Okay.
This is like been a whole big where have you been lately,
Right.
which I like.
It is.
But
Can it be? Is it better than my my line or whatever?
I'm not going to
Fish
say that
or
it's
ducks
better
walking
than
water?
ducks walking in water. I won't go that far. But in Phoenix, and we've been talking about Phoenixville earlier, Colonial Theater and all that. Phoenixville used to be home to the Val Rio Diner.
Okay. I've heard of that.
It was a neat little diner right there on 724, and I guess is that Bridge Street?
Yep,
Yeah.
Street.
And I actually went there a lot in high school, so it's been more than the last couple months. Sorry. But it was the classic open 24-hour diner, breakfast at night, and in high school, I was in marching band. Are you surprised? No.
Why, I knew that, yeah.
So, in marching band, you got home from cavalcades pretty late at night, and we were always hungry, and it was like midnight, and we would go drive over to the Val Rio
Awesome.
and eat breakfast at 12:30 in the
Breakfast served all day. I mean,
Exactly.
that's a diner classic.
Come on, that's the diner,
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the reason I haven't been there, say Exhibit A, these awesome pancakes and our fruit
Quickly
salad
disappearing.
that we scarfed down. And to me, it was such a neat diner, and I haven't visited it lately because it is no longer.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
But there's a good story. Well,
There is.
in the history of diners, as you all know, I'm not telling anybody, but they were built on factories and meant to be hauled onto the site and plopped down. So the great thing about that is, let's say somebody wants to close their diner and sell the property underneath it for a Walgreens, for example. Then, because the diner had been built to be put on moved, you could also move it away. So that's what happened to Phoenixville. Where the Val Rio was, the land was worth more than the business. They sold the land out from underneath it, put a chain there, but then luckily the diner was able to be moved off site. So it didn't get demolished. There was fear in town that it was going to be, because then you move it off site and then nobody could find a place to put it back in town.
Right.
So it actually was in somebody's backyard for a number of years.
Yeah, it sat covered up for some time.
Yep. But then the good news is literally just, I want to say, barely 6 months ago, an attorney who works in Philadelphia saw that the diner was for sale. It piqued his interest, and he said, "I'll buy it." So it was kind of cool, because then not only did it not end up in a landfill, but he has now taken it. It is in parts unknown at the moment. He's going to, I believe, renovate it, and it's going to be part of a private collection. But when you drive down the street, nothing bumps me out more than seeing these great old buildings that are getting, destroyed, and then there's a Wawa. Now, granted, I go to Wawa a lot, but if you could save the building like you guys have done with this diner, it's so much better. So even though the Val Rio is not in Phoenixville anymore, at least it's not in pieces in a landfill. It's now gone. It's gone to a better place.
A similar story with this diner as well, which was same thing. Business closed, sell the land. That's a Rite Aid now, and fortunately a group came in and saved this, and it ended up coming here. And now the Val Rio is different from this one. It's a slightly different vintage. It's a 1948, so 10 years newer than this one. This is a 38, and a lot more stainless than this one.
Yeah.
The exterior was stainless too, and it was such a neat pattern. And if you go to Retro Road Map and search for Val Rio, you'll see some photos of it, and we can maybe put some of these photos on the screen as you see. But the pattern was so neat. It was almost like it looked like dishes almost. These circles all along in these stripes on the exterior, and a bright pink roof like that Pepto-Bismol kind of roof. It was really distinctive and a great sign too.
And the neat thing about that pattern is, so I have friends who, when they saw that, they actually thought that somebody had riveted compact discs, CDs to the outside to make it modern. Yeah. But what that is, it actually was pressed into that stainless steel, and the level of craftsmanship to create that pattern evenly and around, like, people don't do that anymore. That's why you don't, that's kind of a lost art, probably, much like some of the things that went into creating this diner, 10 years before.
Yeah.
So it's
it was just so cool and so distinctive looking, and I tried to find a little bit about the company that made it, this Paramount, and I couldn't really find too much. They were also in New Jersey, Oakland, New Jersey.
Aren't all good things from New Jersey?
Sure.
Many good things are from New Jersey.
But not all.
Let's be diplomatic.
This diner was built in New Jersey, Elizabeth, New Jersey.
I was from New Jersey.
You were built in New Jersey?
And just a neat company. They were known for that stainless steel diner. That was their thing. Now supposedly what I found, it's hard to find this stuff and like validate it. That's kind of my point. But supposedly Paramount offered the all stainless steel exterior before any other company. That was their thing. And they also patented split construction method, which they use a lot now in modular construction. Okay. So that, it's like kind of built in pieces. It's,
like a double wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it could more easily transported. Really, I guess was the thought behind that. And I saw on one site that they were still open, that they were called Paramount Modular Constructs or Concepts, but I think it is now closed. I think that was a slightly out of date entry. But there are a lot of diner companies. Even just we focus so much on Jerry O'Mahony because that's who built our diner. But there were a lot of these companies out there, and this one was just so cool, and it was part of my memory and of high school and everything. And you had noted this one was really special of Val Rio because it's one of the four left with the corners with that glass block.
Yeah, well, it has the glass block, but the thing that does make it distinctive, and as you said, I think there are only four, are those kind of circles in the stainless, because not everybody was able to do that kind of patterning.
Yeah.
I actually admit to reaching out to some people who own one of the four and was like, well, you own one. We've got one here if you want to own two. And they were gracious.
The first one wears out.
Yeah, or parts. I don't know. But it's great that it went to a good home.
Well, the other three that feature this pattern, we'll just flash photos of them up here. The one is the 11th Street Diner, and that's in Miami Beach.
Yep.
So that isn't too local.
Road trip.
Road trip. The West Bay Diner in, I'm going to pronounce Grand Marais,
I think.
Michigan. It has a cool little like porch like built out on the front of it. And then the other one, which is closed, the Comet Diner in Hartford, Connecticut. And actually the photo I found of that one, it's called the Etna.
Are you going to get it? But you're going to show people this. This photo is to die for.
It's beautiful. It looks like it was an old
Looks like an old postcard with. Well, you guys are car
Look at the
people.
great car.
There's a great vintage car in there. It has, even when it's the Comet, the Comet did not have that great
entry.
Yeah, the vestibule with the wonderful stainless on it, but it's totally glamorous.
Yeah, I guess it was called the Etna in the 50s.
Okay.
At some point, it changed names. You know where I got that postcard?
No, whatever.
Everything comes full circle here. I got it from the Hartford Courant newspaper, which is where I got my Melanie information about Mr. Softy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for filling that.
Everything comes full circle. But I guess, one of the reasons I wanted to sort of bring this up, first of all, of course, the Phoenixville connection, that you kind of knew about it, and it's local to us and here. And also, I have to use your photos because I didn't take any. In high school, we went there because it was open and it was close by and it was, a cool place to go, but I didn't appreciate it, I don't think, for what it was. I didn't appreciate how cool that exterior was until it was gone.
Right.
And, so many of these places, unfortunately, they might be gone soon. So, if you see stuff like this, I think it's important to go out and photograph it and experience it and before it leaves.
Yeah.
In Phoenix, it just didn't work out, and hopefully it will be safe now.
And many of the places that I visited, when I first started this kind of research and love of it, I have random, snapshots that I took, and sometimes they're the only photos of some places, and they're not the best, but it's like, an existing photo is better than nothing at all. Now it's a lot easier that we have digital cameras, that we all, can just do things so much easier. But yeah, I would say visit places when you see it. Make the extra effort to stop because they could be closed the very next day.
Yeah.
I'm heading out on Sunday to go to a Hinkle's Pharmacy in Columbia.
I love that place.
Well,
I love it.
Okay. See, this is a crazy thing. So if we had talked yesterday afternoon, I would have been lamenting about the fact that they are closing after 124 years next Wednesday. Yeah. And so I was, even up to last night, I posted on Retro Roadmap to remind people on the Facebook page, hey, if you want to go to Hinkle's and sit at their lunch counter at the pharmacy and get a shifter sandwich, the only place in the world you can get this sandwich they make, you need to do it within the next 7 days. And then it was great because somebody said, wait, I just had a friend go there today and they said that they may not be closing anymore. So just last night it was announced that a company is going to buy the building. The pharmacy area, the pharmacy part will no longer be there because everybody goes to the chains.
Right.
However, what they're going to do is they're going to keep and expand the lunch counter, so it'll be a little bit more of a restaurant, and then also just a community meeting place because so many people sit there at the counter and you learn about what's going on in town. And even if you're a stranger, you go in and you find out what goes on in town. So we're still going to go on Sunday because I have a total hankering for a shifter sandwich, but it was, you just never know. These places, 124 years, and then it's just like, CVS, Walgreens, taking away our business, can't do it, sorry, gonna close. It's like, it's heartbreaking.
Hinkle's is a great place and you should go. It's really neat.
And it's right near the shoe house too, and the Prospect Diner. And there's a bunch of places that you can shop in town for antiques, and it's just a great place to drive.
Columbia is a great antiques town.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And the Clock Museum.
Oh yeah, the Clock Museum.
That's why I went there. I used to work there. And we would go to the Hinkle's for lunch, and it was always crowded. Yeah. Great place. But we have to wrap up here, but real quick, we want to get in that you have books.
I have books, yes.
Yes.
So I went from the internet, I went old school, so I've created a series of Retro Roadmap. It feels like an infomercial. So yeah, what I decided was I love to find certain things on the website or on my phone, but sometimes when I'm in my car, it's just too much to try to be looking at your phone and things like that. So what I've started is a Retro Roadmap guidebook series. And it's going to be at least one per state. This is the one for the Philadelphia area suburbs because if I did Philly, it would be like 3 inches thick and I would be writing it for the next 10 years. So I'm going to get ones out as much as I can. And what I've done is I've collected up all the places that I like, Retro Roadmap worthy, there'll be a picture, a little bit of information and history, but then there's places where you can write about your visit there. There's a
Very
place
cool.
in the front where you can check off. I don't know if anybody's a list person like I am, but it's like, oh, we haven't been to all the places in the store. We need to go to the Colonial Theater. We need to go to the Washington House, you know, collect them all. And then if you're a little bit on the more technologically advanced side, I do have this little stamp here, but that's a QR code that you can read that with the QR reader on your phone and get directions on your phone to there. So it's a little
Cool.
bit of the modern and the old school. And then instead of just having these books and they stay all pristine on your bookshelf like all of mine do, this one you get to write in it and it becomes your travel journal. So that you can flip through it and say, remember that time we went to Hinkle's and we had that sandwich? Oh yeah, and then we went to the shoe house and I bought that cool thing at the antique place. It's like your little memory book.
It's perfect.
Yeah, and it's fun. I've had a lot of families buying them for like getting the kids out on the road, and also it makes a great holiday gift for, you know, anybody who's into maybe
Christmas
road
is
tripping.
coming.
Just saying. But yeah, so this is what I'll be doing for the next 50 years of my life. You know.
My birthday's coming up.
Okay. I'll make a note. So get that on retroroadmap.com and all the cool stuff on the website. Go visit there, see more stuff. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was
Yeah.
awesome. Oh my gosh.
We're gonna go now and eat more food and talk about more cool stuff. So we'll see you all next month.